It's always the best team, this People squad. A great week coming in with an 836, the nice overall rank to kick things off. And we only had to make one trade, which was great. And that was moving Garner to Liero there. And I think that was a pretty simple one. Considering Liero's going to get 80 minutes, he had it all in base across the weekend. And that shores things up in our team and sort of guarantees us that a little bit more than what Garner was going to get, the minutes, etc. there. So how the team's set up and why we personally wouldn't get rid of a Brandon Smith. We'll go through my team as well and a bit of discussion around that. But Smithy, guys, 1 week, is that who you're going to give him? Comes up against the Warriors. There's every chance he burrows over for a try. They have a buy in round 4. You got the next 2 weeks to have a look at him. And you can make a decision on him there. Like the amount of people rage trading him to, I get it. There's a chance that he doesn't come out and do great. I completely understand that. But you're trading him for guys that have come out and scored a try and had the perfect game, where the Roosters were so bad. The Roosters were so bad. Have we realised that? They won't be that bad again. They can't be. They're premiership favourites, or now second favourites for a reason. And Smithy's ribs is going to be his main issue. 60 minutes, I don't think is a big issue, guys. Like there's him in the 9 position, getting good tackles, somewhere around that 30 or so, getting good run meters, getting the tackle breaks and stuff that he does. He's going to be fine. Look, if he doesn't work out this week, then that's fine to move him on. But the amount of people moving him on, straight to what I found hilarious, we may as well have a bit of a rant here, is the center position. The amount of people that were completely fine going so cheap in those centers are now trying to get guns in there, like even 2 guns straight away. Like, I can't deal with low scores. That was expected. That some low scores were going to be there, especially against different matchups, and if teams play pretty poor, like Talau had some issues, Alamotti in a poor team as well. So I think a lot of people are just reacting, definitely, obviously, to scores, but then, to certain positions that don't do as well. Yes, the mids and the hooks is going to be, great for the first bunch of weeks, but that whole first couple of weeks, guys, is going to be based around defense. A lot of the outside backs aren't going to do too great. I can definitely understand the Bird one, but then the Bird has so many, there's so many thoughts around him about potential issues as well. Thing is with him, if he's coming back from an injury, you think he's going to go straight in the middle and play 80 minutes? I doubt that personally. He's obviously scored great in that position. He is a gun, so you're spending a lot of money in that center position right now. You get locked in for the year with him, I would say. If you're picking him up now, you're going to have him for the entirety of the year. He's very versatile. There's a lot of things to think about with him where he could be moved to centers, to 6, these type of things there. So just be aware, guys. People are trying to move on from Matt Dury, for example. I've seen a couple of people throw out there. I've seen people that started to make money, but like, I can make a little bit more money with this guy. Just simmer, guys. It's going to be okay. Everything will be okay. Most people could actually stick with their round 1 teams and be completely fine. The only real player that you should be clearly looking to trade out is Munster. All the other guys, even like Khan Pereira, we speak about him as being a sell. If you could one trade him to a Cartwright, for example, then that would be cool as well. But I wouldn't be double trading for Cartwright. You'll see in my team here, I've chosen not to do that because of some of the issues that it could come out with. In terms of you're looking at a certain player, like we'll go to my side in a sec. But if I was to trade Suoli'i out for Thompson, who do we think is going to score better as well? That's obviously important this week. Thompson, if he comes out and gets a 30 again, he does make a little bit of money, but not a lot. 20k it might be, and we could select him next week. They have a really tough game against the Panthers, whereas the Roosters have a really easier game against the Warriors. Right? It's a very different setup there as to what you're looking at. Panthers coming off a big loss. They're playing at home again. Rabbitohs are good, but Thompson came out and got 8-9 tackle busts and 170 meters. Almost every run he made, he got a tackle break. So lots of things to think about. We are reacting clearly to one game. You saw Egan Butcher get sin bin, for example, and he's been moved on by a lot of people. Smithy had a head injury and also a rib injury and still got 34. Roosters were terrible, dropping the ball all the time. He had no chance to make the runs that he normally would, and he still got a 34. Whereas if he can come out this week and get a 50, then people trade him out are going to be annoyed because he's priced at high 30s to 40 there. He gets that extra 10 points of value. He gets up into the 700s, and there's every chance that he does that. And if he doesn't, that's okay. He's not going to come out and score 20. He's not going to come out and score 10. He's probably going to hit close to where he's probably just under his break even if he has an average game. So Yeah, there's my rant, guys. Just something to think about in this first couple of weeks. Yes, it's important to trade and get things correct. Like if you've got like guys like Isaiah Katoa, and you can one trade to someone you think that's going to make a bit more cash. Because you look at his scores right now, he actually had an okay game and he got 11. Like they dominated, he got 11. So if they get smashed, he might get a little bit less than that. So you look at him and go, oh, is he going to make money? Probably not. Khan Pereira, he's got a higher break even now. He probably won't make money for the next bunch of weeks either. Cardi, for example, he's a bit more of a short-term play and he could do really well there. So they're the type of things you got to think about. Guys that are pushing to, I saw someone mention they're thinking about downgrading Haas for an extra 100K to get Tohu Harris. Payne Haas should be in your team all the way until 13 at the least. If you're making those types of trades, you're going from keeper to keeper, mid-ranger to mid-ranger, cash cow to cash cow, and you're not really making inroads into building your team squad, your team value, and also really just getting towards your final 17 by making a good amount of money. So yeah, that's my rant with that one. But People Squad, in terms of our setup, we're obviously great up top, the hooks, the mids, with Haas, Carrigan, Hopgood there, killing it, Katoa and Liero. We can move that around based on who's playing first and stuff like that. But Cleary, Dewey, also we got Cleary this week as well. And guys, if you don't have Harry Grant, for example, you're going Smith and Tanner Boyd, and you have Cleary, if you trade Brandon Smith out of your side, you then are left with Tanner Boyd to cover the half position and also the hooking position, unless you're happy to play a Katoa. Obviously, this team has a bit more half cover, but most teams don't have Tamati Martin on the bench. They have him either starting or they don't have him at all. You're forced to play Sonny Luke, for example, in a round 4, which obviously can't play in round 3 next week. So yeah, there's lots of things to think about in terms of those trades, which again we'll discuss when we get to my team. Smith, Shields and Talau, our team has decided to opt against going heavy in the centers just for this week, and we can have a look at these guys. The centers at the moment, none of them did really well, and that's why a lot of people are going for Bird, the Lemmy Lou, like that's the best game of his career. Mark Nichols, there was some talk of him doing really well this year in round 1. We thought he'd do solidly. Same with Lockie Ilias. Again, you're pushing them into your side to get a bit of a cash grab, potentially some decent scores each every second or third week. So yeah, plenty to talk about, plenty to think about, and that's my rant. We've gone cheaper in the centers, Smith, Shields, and Talau. So we're going to play Talau over Alamotti just for the matchup basis. Alamotti goes up against Storm, and Talau has a much nicer matchup there, which is good. All right. Wing fullbacks, we got Drinkwater, Miller, and Warbrick. We're happy with Warbrick's game this week coming up against the Dogs. I think that's going to be a lot better. Drinky should have a good game as well. You'd imagine a nice tight tussle against the Broncos, and then the guys we're playing on the bench, Boyd, Smith, Ford, and then either Murdoch, Masila, or Dury will be our call there. So the team looks pretty solid, guys. I think they're going to come out and do really well. We've kept 67 in the bank, and we have one trade used for 35 until we get that extra 8 at round 21. So that's the squad. Only guys that aren't going to make money for a little bit, Katoa, and then we could hope that Alamotti, Smith, Shields, and Talau have an improved game. One or two of them to get at least 30 this week and start that money-making potential. And then Tamati Martin for a 30 plus as well. Continued with Dury doing his thing in the 30s, Murdoch Masila to kick off his first round with a nice score on that edge as well. So really not too many holes in this side at the moment. We're covering most bases. It's just center that's the only real issue at the moment. But again, if they both come out and get a 30, that could match some of the mid-range to keeper center numbers as well. So that's the risk you took in round 1. I suggest that you can continue with that there and give these centers a chance, because not really any of them did well in that first round. So that is the People Squad. And we move to my team. I actually decided to hold Pat, guys. There was some talk for me, as I said, about potentially Suoli'i to Thompson, and then we'd go Preston up to Bryce Cartwright for that cash grab. And you look at those trades, and as I said, does Suoli'i outscore Thompson? Most likely. We're pretty keen on points at this stage of the year as well to get a nice ranking. He could come out and do really, really well with Joey Manu back, floating. You got Teddy, you got everything going on there, and they will be better for the run, even with Lodge out, I would imagine. Preston, again, he got the really good minutes, so there's really no point moving on from him this week. He got 18, so he still made 2K. And break even around that 14, 15. If he comes out, gets those 50 minutes, gets to 35, I'll be kicking myself that I traded him out. Just for you're looking at that, it's 2 trades for potentially 10 points of improvement. Potentially, I could play a Murdoch Masila and he gets a 40, and Bryce Cartwright gets a 40 as well. Suoli'i probably scores a little bit better than Thompson in that week. So maybe it's a 0 in terms of the points. Obviously, it's a bit of a cash grab. So he's not going to make you money over the next few weeks unless he gets a 45 to 50 plus. But how much is a trade worth in terms of cash grab? We've seen what Cardi's done to us in the past as well. So he would be a bit of a risk if he gets 2 really good weeks. And then he's moved back to the bench, and Maddo plays that type of role, maybe on the edge, and then comes through the middle, and Cartwright comes on for 30 or 40 or something like that off the bench. Then it feels like a bit of a wasted trade when I could potentially score better in this round, and he makes sort of 80 to 100k. I don't think making 2 trades to get Cartwright in is going to be worth it for me this week, especially when I can wait, see how Suaalii goes. And if Thompson still looks good, Suaalii doesn't look as good, like they both score a 35 or something like that, I could straight swap Suaalii to Thompson there and make that decision. In terms of balance, I'm really happy with that. I've got obviously my wing fullback in Drinky. I've got my centre in Suaalii. It's just who we play there with Talau or Alamotti. But overall, on the left-hand side there, you've got Blore, who should come out and score well this week. Hopefully he stays on the park, which will be good. Preston, I'd expect him to improve on that. Alamotti, the same or a little bit better. Talau, hopefully a little bit better up against a weaker opponent. And then, you've got Murray and Haas. 2 of the guys are the premium mids. And guys like Carrigan, guys like Grant, they could come down a little bit. They obviously outdid their break-evens, whereas Murray was a little bit above, and so was Payne Haas with his. So if they can come back to earth a little bit, Brandon Smith comes out and does well. Egan Butcher goes back to what we're looking for him to score, that 45 to 50. And then Suaalii can come out and get a 45 to 55 as well with a try and maybe some good runs and tackle breaks there. Then, it all kind of comes together. Drinky, plays a little bit better as well. Even if he gets a 45 to 50, we'll take that. First couple of weeks, a pretty tough one with Raiders, also a tough one against the Broncos. And then my bench is going to be fine. Ford, Katoa, Boyd, and then, we've got the selection between Murdoch, Masila, Dury, and also Sean Blore. So that's my general thoughts, guys. That were the 2 trades that I was looking at. The other option I could have gone with was Brandon Smith. And I could have gone him up to a Tohu Harris. I could have gone him up to a Carrigan. And then I went down with Suaalii to Thompson, for example. Or, you go down to Cartwright and play Alamotti. So they're the couple of options I could have gone with. But that leaves me really short in the hooker position, as I said. Tanner Boyd would go into that hooking position this week, which would be fine for this one. But then next week with Cleary out, I would only have Tanner in the hooking position and no one in the halves position. I would be having to make a trade for a gun hooker. And, maybe, I was thinking potentially Smithy goes up to Brayley as well. And then Suaalii goes down to Thompson. I'm still missing out on Cartwright with that one. Again, I'm, potentially getting, Brayley, who's going to be a tackling type of player in a not so good side. He could get a 50. Brandon Smith could come out and get a 50 as well. So it just felt like this week it's just a hold. If Brandon Smith happens to be out this week, then there's a great chance that I trade Smith for Brayley, for example, just so I have that hooker next week, and he's going to be pretty safe for around that 50 and make a little bit of cash there as he's priced under that 700k. And Suaalii will probably go down just so I can fix that trade or make that trade there and have a solid side looking into next week. And that's the big thing to think about, guys, over the next few weeks is what type of players do you have out. So for me, only Cleary next week. The week after, I currently have 3 in Suaalii, Smith, and Butcher. Butcher's probably the one I'm looking to hold most likely. Brandon Smith will find out how his ribs are doing, obviously with him being playing this week or how he's going to go. And then Suaalii, as I said, was a 3-game play. Hopefully, I stuck with that from game 1. That was the round 1. That was the plan. That's why I didn't go more expensive up top. I went a bit more expensive down the bottom, which a lot of people are doing now in round 2. Obviously, got the it's worked out semi-okay for them in terms of they've got the benefit of these really good scores in round 1, and then now they're trying to fix that position down there and trading these mid-range type of guys that could get you a 50 to try and shore up that center position. So a week later than I did it, and we'll see which strategy ends up best overall, because next week I'm probably looking to trade, make the double trade. We'll have a bit more information on a couple of players, rounds 3, rounds 4, rounds 5. I could look to use those trades then, because I've held in this one. It doesn't feel as bad. Definitely, pushing for round 3, 4, and 5 to really shoot up the ranks and make some good cash. The only one the only way we're not making cash at the moment is not having Cartwright. Otherwise, we're pretty happy with how everything's set up. in terms of our cheapies. Murdoch Masila comes in a good spot. You got Blory, you got Dury there, you got Ford. Started with Liero, Katoa, Boydie. These types of guys here. Obviously, Hopgood was a must-have. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at there. Warbrick as well will make some cash along with Miller. So, yeah, every team is obviously looking a little bit different. But, there's that 2 to 5 players kind of thing in each team. And if you pick the correct bench each and every week for interchange points, then that's really going to help you week to week. Last week I had, Blory that gets the 13. He picks up an extra 20 points or something like that. And, we're not having a bit of a crisis here. If we're sitting in an 825, 830, 840 type of score, Butcher gets that extra 15 points. I'm sitting in the 830s, 840, and no one's really stressing there. So Roosters don't come out and have that poor of a game, and we're not talking about these players either. So really, the amount of people just going for guys that had absolutely outstanding games, the best games of their career, and looking to trade out guys that have done it for a long time, especially in that 9 position with Smithy. Swilly obviously a super talent, and he looked really good on the weekend in amongst them being pretty poor. And Butcher, we've seen what he's been able to do. He could come out and get a 75 this week. We've seen him get 74 in less minutes on an edge roll in an edge game there with a try. So every chance of that can come out again. His tackle numbers are crazy, and I think that's enough for me talking. Have a good one, guys. Good luck with your trades.